Come on, get in step.
We've always been in step.
Yeah, but we're never together inside there.
I got to get my pencils because there's a lot of strikes today, Jack.
That's Whitey Harris getting ready to mark down the strikes on Top Star Bowling. We're at the Marlboro Lanes, and we're very happy that you're going to join us. You are, aren't you? Come on. Hi, it's another week of Top Star Bowling from the Marlboro Lanes, where once again and for the third consecutive week, Bob Strampe of Detroit is our defending champion. I'm Jack Buck, and we'll be introducing Whitey Harris a bit later on. Tell you a bit about the match before you meet Bob and his opponent for this week. It's a three-game match with total pins determining the winner, and $1,000 goes to the victor, $500 to the loser. And so Mr. Strampe will be going for his third $1,000 prize. In addition, more money is available, a total of $2,500, $1,500 for the high series, and $1,000 for the high game. We're at the Marlboro Lanes, located in the village of Marlboro, just southwest of the city of St. Louis, the gateway to the west, and one of the fine bowling centers of the country and of the world. We want to get started with our match, so let's bring on a fellow who has won twice previously and flirted with that high series, but still hasn't caught it, and he is Bob Strampe. Bob, good to see you.
Good to be back, Jack.
Once again, you have a good week at home?
Real fine, real fine.
I imagine the people in Iowa and Minnesota get angry when we talk about Detroit. We better mention those places, huh?
Well, wouldn't hurt, I don't think, because still kind of homeward.
We have done that. And now the opponent for this week is a youngster and one of the outstanding young bowlers in the country, a fellow who had the thrill of being in the finals of the BPAA All-Star Tournament in 1963. And you'll enjoy watching him, one of the outstanding bowlers in the country and the very best bowler in Pilgrim Meeting, Pennsylvania, Ted Hoffman Jr. Ted, good to see you.
I want to get one thing straight on that. That's actually Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania.
Well, it's the same thing, you know? They have big rocks there where you landed?
A little bit.
Well, maybe we're a little confused. How many people live in that town?
I'd say about 35,001.
Oh, about the same size as Marlboro. She'd
Just
be
about.
right at home here on the lane.
Just about.
Handshake, and away we go for $1,000.
Good luck, Pop.
Bob Strampe and Ted Hoffman Jr., and we certainly hope you enjoy this edition of Top Star Bowling. Bob Strampe is our leadoff man this week. And he's up on lane 21. This is a 24-lane house, Marlboro. And Bob is away to a 9-pin carry on his first delivery. Leaves a 6, trying for a mark. Alongside me is Whitey Harris. Jerome, the first name. Member of the Brunswick Advisory Staff of Champions. You'll be hearing his expert commentary as we go along. And Bob marks in the first frame. Whitey, I haven't had the pleasure of watching Ted perform before. It'll be interesting, always is, to watch a newcomer.
Yes, it is, and you remarked he made a tremendous showing in that BPA All-Star tournament.
And he strikes. My first impression watching him, and really I didn't pay any attention to him in practice, is that he is one of the few who makes use of his strength, his native strength there, rather than depending completely on coordination. I'm talking about the way he carries the ball in the short backswing.
Yes, he's carrying it with his wrist, Jack, coming back.
He just cocks that wrist, and he starts with a double. I tell you, he's not... This is his first appearance in Top Star Bowling. He's not the least bit flustered, is he?
There's a little, Jack, I wish we could be in color, but it's not. But his cheeks start to fluster up. If there ever was an apple-cheeked youth, this is one.
I agree with you. Bob Strampe tries to answer. He's spared in the first frame, and no 10-pin. Marlboro Lanes, which I have mentioned already, and the specific lanes being employed here are certified by the American Bowling Congress. The series, Top Star Bowling, is sanctioned by ABC. We've had some tremendous matches in the past. Now the spare. I think we like to level with the people, Whitey, that there's no doubt that lanes could be selected and prepared to the point where we'd have scores that would be way up in the stratosphere. But these are normal conditions that the average bowler would encounter in a Brunswick house.
That's right, Jack, and it takes these pros a while to, as they call it, read a lane or find a lane. But when they do, they've been getting a lot of the strikes.
Bob Strampe had the 8-10 for a while and leaves a 10-pin for the second frame in a row. And I imagine that would buoy the confidence of the youngster who is his opponent. A win here and on to the next one. And Dick Hoover will be the opponent next week. Another of the great stylists in the game. 3 marks in a row for Strampe, who in previous weeks defeated Al Savis with a 623 series and then vanquished Tom Hennessy with a 663 total. Hoffman looking for 3 in a row. Right over the third arrow. I don't think he can miss. He looks like he could do this all day and all night, Marianne. 3 in a row for him, and he was right over that third arrow, and that's where he's been playing them, and that's where he's been hitting them. Husky individual.
Seems like Isabel is enjoying the... I think she's getting to know the game a little better, Jack, since she's been observing these pro bowlers, and especially...
We'll let her MC the next match. He knew he made a mistake.
She gave a little ooh that time, too, when she saw that big 7-10 split.
That's what it is after 3 in a row. The old 7-10. You know, I have never seen the 7-10 made. I know you have quite often. Came away with a 9 count.
It's funny, Jack, but actually in our hometown here, St. Louis, during the ABC, held a few years back, there was 125 7-10s picked in that 97-day run of that tournament. Of course, they're bowling all day in that, and bowlers of all averages.
Whoops. Bob looking for his first strike, and he leaves the 8-pin. He got stuck just a bit at the approach, and there are many reasons for that. Could have picked up some foreign material while wandering around here, or maybe some perspiration dropped on the approach. There are a lot of reasons for that. He continues to spare, and you see him look down to see where he was and to note that he didn't stick again. That's 4 straight spares for him, and he's not behind by many pins, about 9-pin difference right now.
You know what they'll do sometimes, Jack? That if it only means one board on the approach where that interference is, they'll move a board to the right or the left so that they don't hit in that continual spot.
5th frame for Strampe, and his first strike of the game. You could almost tell that he was ready to strike. And that was, by the way, we bowl week after week on the same pair of lanes here, so as to not give an advantage to a particular bowler. But that 21 is one that Bob is very much at home on. 3 out of 4 strikes for Hoffman. And so, Strampe has 77 through the 4th with a strike, and Ted Hoffman has 86 through the 4th with a strike. Ted started with a 3-bagger, going for a double now. On the nose. A little better break this time than he got previously. Isn't it funny how one bowler will hit one lane and the other will hit the other lane?
Well, we've commented on Strampe on that left lane, Jack. It looks like he's really bought an interest in it up until in his last pitch, he really came back home, you might say, because he really blasted him.
Ted going for the 3-6-10. Whoops. Didn't have that fully covered or ideally covered, but got his first spare of the game. Now Strampe, trailing by 11 pins, can get 10 of that back right now. X for 10. Hey! I could read the writing on the bottom of that 7-pin. It said Brunswick, made in USA. Couldn't quite get the serial number because it didn't stay up that long. Strampe back over on 21. On the nose for 6. So Mr. Hoffman, who is from Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania, out in front here. As Strampe totals 133 through the 7th. Ted has had 4 strikes, and he's in the 7th frame. A high hit leaves a 6-10. Well, you never know, do you? High hit, you leave the 4-pin, 4-7. Sometimes you come and leave him on the other side.
Well, I think with Ted's ball, Jack, he really has a rolling ball. He starts that ball just as soon as it hits the lane there, which we haven't seen among some of these bowlers.
He covers the 6-10 and marks in the 7th where Strampe had opened. Through the 6th, they are precisely even with 124. But Strampe opened in the 7th, and Ted Hoffman has a spare. So whatever he gets with this delivery will indicate his margin in the match. 10. 10 of them. He now has 6 strikes. Bob Strampe has had but 2.
Good chance, Jack, to see how the A2 works by the time Bob comes back.
After that tap, what will happen?
And the ball returning so fast. See if he's this right foot up on the approach, and there comes the ball.
Has to bear down on this. Ran right by it. That's his second open in a row after a split. A split, then a tap, and then a miss. That's a terrible combination. That's the worst thing you can say about your game. Well, I did all right until I got that split, and then I got tapped, and then I blew it. And then couldn't come back on 21 as he leaves a 6-pin. He's going to be down a few.
I think he's, although I remarked, Jack, in the 5th frame when I saw him get that strike, that he was back home on that left lane, but looks like he's in trouble. I think if he can't hit that left lane, Ted Hoffman's going to really give him some trouble.
There's a spare in the 9th for Bob Strampe. Ted Hoffman bowling in the 9th frame, looking for a double.
How'd you like to be 15 years old, Jack, and roll a 300 game in a sanctioned
I don't
league?
care what I bowl. Just make me 15 again, that's all. No 5-pin, which is a rarity in this caliber of play. No, that's what Ted did, isn't that true? 15 years old, bowled a 300
And then
game.
a year later, in a junior tournament up around Philadelphia, he bowled another one.
You think when he was 16, he'd bowl at least 305. There's a spare. So they each have a spare in the 9th. And a 22-pin difference with the fella on the approach out in front.
So to carry on his career, Jack, a few years later, when he became a member of the Professional Bowlers Tournament, he shot a 300 in the tournament in Albany.
He's going to open in the roll-off as he leaves a 4-6. Well, Strampe could about make this an even match when he gets back up there. Ted is 5'10", 180. That's a nice hand. He had 5 strikes in that game. Ended with 191. 2 splits hurt him, a 7-10 and a 4-6. Strampe could go on to a 192 and have the lead by a pin at the end of this game if he can pop 3 of them in there. Has a spare up. He was pretty far outside with that one, Whitey.
I think so. I don't know how to describe it, Jack, but all of a sudden whether it was due to the fact that when he got that 10 pin before, and he threw that ball a little slow the last time. He hasn't reached the speed that he's been using in the past weeks. That's gone, too.
He walks back as if to say, well, I'll forget about this game. He blew 2 10 pins, and he had a split, and he ends with 170, and Ted Hoffman with 191 is 21 pins ahead at the end of the first game. Well, a little reversal of form this week on the part of Bob Strampe, a 2-time winner on Top Star Bowling, and only 2 strikes in that first game as opposed to the many that he's picked up in previous weeks. But his opponent, Ted Hoffman, knows very well when Bob gets started, he's going to bang them in there. And the match still rather close, 21 pins. And by the way, each of the last 2 weeks when Bob was on the show and lost, he trailed at the end of the first game. I wanted you to know that, Ted. And now, the second game on Top Star Bowling. Ted Hoffman leading off in the second game. He started the first game with 3 in a row. On 21, where he ended with a split before, and he gets back on one. Now Bob comes up on 22. Strampe had a split and 2 misses, 2 10 pins. I wonder when the last time was that he missed 2 10 pins in one game.
When in his runs here, Jack, we haven't seen him. I think he only missed 1 spare in his other matches.
So he decides not to leave the 10 pin, and he leaves the 4-9 instead. That was a pretty good hit. It has to be a good hit to leave that combination.
Yes, whenever you leave that, Jack, it can go either way. You either carry it or you get something like this. He'll shoot to hit that 4 pin from the left side and try to slide it over.
He could use this. And a 9 count. He's opening the gate for Ted Hoffman to hang around here or to make a trip between Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania, and St. Louis next week and say hello to Ted Hoover. Now, this is his good lane, and I'm supposed to be discouraging to him if he doesn't hit this time. 4 pin. I don't think we've mentioned yet that Billy Golumbieski currently has the high series and the high single in this 13-week period. 686 and 258. $1,500 and $1,000 respectively. That's what these bowlers are shooting at. There's a spare. And Billy G doesn't have too many more to sweat out.
Ted, like all the top pros, Jack, they look where they stand. They pick out a spot on the approach before they start, where they want to be sure they're anchored to it.
High hit, but a strike as the 4-pin decided to go. That's a double for him.
He's one of the few bowlers that we've seen on Top Star Bowling that is actually rounding that ball.
What do you mean by that, Whitey?
Well, I think it's caused, Jack, by actually he cups that ball when he gets it out over the foul line. You can watch that on his release.
Little getaway as he leaves a 6-10. Gets a good count on that double, even if he didn't get into the 3-bagger. You'll remember that Bob Strampe had the split in the first frame, and already Ted owned a 21-pin lead, so he doesn't have much cause for complaint at this point. Bob Strampe is a member, Whitey, of the Brunswick Advisory Staff of Champions, as is his opponent on this show. He was Rookie of the Year in Detroit bowling a few years ago. He had to go after that 7-pin twice in order to get it. Flew by it once and came back and got it. If at first. And now, needs a double to match the double with which Hoffman started.
I think this could be a turning point, Jack, because he hasn't been able to have any confidence on this lane.
Yeah. There's his double. The name Hoffman is a familiar name to us, Whitey. We were at Hoffman Estates Lanes last year for Top Star Bowling just outside of Chicago and had a great time up there.
Yes, that's true.
Rather peculiar action that time as a two-pin remains. .67 through the third. Bowling in the fourth. Did a little hop there at the foul line as he didn't glide up there precisely as he desired. If I were conversing with Ted right at the moment, I'd tell him to watch out for that double that Strampe has.
That's true, and here you get a good view, Jack. He don't bring that ball back at all. Short backswing.
Good driving ball on a thin hit and a strike in the fifth. I can't read your writing. I look down and I think it says Scampi. That's some kind of a lobster, isn't it? Bob Strampe.
I have no comments. I'm here to supply the statistic.
3 in a row. So here's a comeback on the part of the defending champion on Top Star Bowling. As Strampe has 29 through the second with a three-bagger. Hoffman has 87 through the fourth with a strike. Bob had only 2 hits in the first game. He's looking for 4 in a row here. There's his good lane. That's 4. We got a match on our hands. We're certainly happy that you're tuning to Top Star Bowling this week, and we hope that you feel the same way. Hope that you make it a habit. Next week you'll see Dick Hoover, Buddy Bomar, Bill Pace. Top Stars, that's where we get the name. Hoffman looking for a double. Threw it away. Wild pitch and a run scores. Never did get to the head pin. That's the first time we've seen either bowler fail to get to the head pin in this match. There's his spare. Ted started with a 21-pin advantage.
Ted has also...
It's about even now.
Jack, Ted has also been invited to the World Invitational, which is held each year in Chicago, and that's sort of quite an honor for a bowler to bowl in that tournament.
The 310. Ted is in his early 20s, but considering the fact we mentioned that 300 game he rolled at age 15, that was a sanctioned 300, by the way. So he opens. Strampe has 29 through the second with a 4-bagger, and Ted Hoffman opens in the 7th with a total of 134. Even match. Bob Strampe is up on 22. He has a string of 4 going, bowling in the 7th frame. Started 21 pins behind, and he's done a good deal about it. Looking for his 5th straight. Strike. 5 for Bob. Remember a while ago, Eddie, I said if I were talking with Ted Hoffman, I'd say to him, watch that double that Strampe has going. That was back in the 3rd and the 4th. He's gone through the 7th now. He's in the 8th. Looking for 6.
Yeah, it's the same old story, Jack. When we've commented about when he gets onto that 21, and I think that's what's won all the matches for Bob. He's been able to hit that lane while the others have had a little trouble with it.
Let's see how Ted does. Hey, that's the way. When I say that's the way, I'm not rooting for Hoffman, nor am I rooting for Strampe. We just like to, frankly, we like to see close matches here. So you people don't run away, and we've got a good one going now. Most of them have been closely contested. Little getaway, leaves a 6-10. Looks like he got hung up in the ball there. Whitey couldn't get rid of it.
Could have been, Jack. And then playing an inside lane for Teddy, I think he has to guide that ball so much, and you could see his hand go right directly in the direction of the head pin. That's where the ball hit, right on the nose.
Trying for a spare in the 9th. And he does. Now Bob Strampe will try to go all the way. He's in the 9th frame. 269 if he can go all the way, and he'll have the high game. Unfortunately, he started with a 170, so the high series of 686 isn't in too much jeopardy at the moment. Somebody in the audience yelled, "Bend it," and he did. He started with a split, and then he spared. And now he has 7 in a row, and he's in the roll-off and on his favorite lane, 21. What a time to make a pitch like that. Now I'm just echoing in words the thoughts that certainly must be his as he comes back.
Well, he was tampering with that high game, Jack. He could have got all 3 of them.
No longer. Not only that, he was about to do in his younger opponent. He's going to have a fine game nonetheless, going for the 245-8. And he has 225 through the 9th, 245 with a hit. So he started with 170 and ends with 243. 243, a nice game for Bob Strampe. 413 total. So the high series is still somewhat within his grasp. If he can get a better start than he has been getting. Ted Hoffman in the roll-off. Leaves a 4-7. It's an uphill battle for him now. Has to bring this back and hit for 192. You think this one isn't close? It could end in a tie at the end of the second game. There's his spare. If he brings this back for 192. No, I had a miscalculation there. He's going to be behind about 30 pins no matter what he does here. But that line may help him in the third game, as he ends with 192 following a 191 game. 383. Bob Strampe has taken the lead after trailing in the first one. He's out in front by 30 pins. Whitey Harris is here to chat with you before the start of the third game here in Top Star Bowling.
Well, Jack, I think we've had, you and I have seen a lot of good bowling, and I know this particular match here looks like it's getting set for another fine finish. We sit back there, and it's certainly easy for us to analyze the game and say this bowler's doing that, but I think if we had to come up here and try to do it, you would have problems. I don't know if I would.
I've seen you have problems.
With the pencil, you mean?
No, with your weight.
Well, Jack, I think we better get back to the bowling.
We're ready for the third game on Top Star Bowling. With the big money riding in the balance, Bob Strampe leads off on lane 21. He has hit this lane the better of the two. Third game getting underway. 30-pin lead for Strampe. And on the nose, and just like that, about 10 of that 30 disappears. Every pitch is so important. Why do we come along week after week and see 3 games, and money changes hand week after week, and sometimes we're inclined to minimize the importance of each delivery in this game. He took down the 6-10, left the 4. And now Ted Hoffman with a chance to cash in. He was given an opening there, but he's on the nose too, and he leaves a 3-10. He missed this one earlier. Missed it in the 7th frame of the second game.
Jack, usually a bowler that curves the ball as much as Teddy, standing left, well, he's not as far to the left as you would expect on his 3-10. The ball has a tendency to break so sharp.
And he got it. He got the mark and took advantage of that open on the part of Strampe, and now the lead is down to 20 pins. We're looking at Ted Edward Hoffman Jr. of Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania, in the Philadelphia area. Fell in his early 20s. On the rise as a bowling star. And a strike, and this will be quite a feather in his cap if he can defeat Bob Strampe, who has won twice previously here on Top Star Bowling, beating Al Savis and Tom Hennessy. Bob opened in the first frame. Leaves a 10-pin now. This winner will take on Dick Hoover. You want to talk about him for a moment?
Well, yes, Jack. Dick has been a tremendous champion. He parallels Ted Hoffman's career, only with quite an age span. But Dick also was a junior sensation.
There's the spare. He missed the reason for the grin. You'll recall that Strampe missed 2 10-pins in the first game. One of them in the roll-off. One in the 8th frame, and then the roll-off, and both, by the way, on the same lane where he just picked the 10-pin. So a split and a spare, and now the 3rd frame. Now, where in the world did that 8-pin come from?
We so often hear in the game, Jack, about taps. Sometimes a 10-pin, a 7-pin, or 4-pin. But I think when you get the 8-pin like that, this is a tap.
And Bob brings it down. Hoffman has already whittled into that 30-pin advantage. He has a strike working as he bowls in the 3rd. He's right over that 3rd arrow. And 7-pin. He needed it. $18 pins is the difference at the moment. He seems to be amazed himself that he missed that one.
I didn't, Jack, then did he come up on it, or did the ball?
The ball started to come up and then it quit. He was pretty far out to start with, but he's been bending the ball quite a bit. Well, that's the way to react to adversity. Come back and get one. So they each have had an open. So the difference will mount close to the 30 figure, which prevailed at the start of this game. Bob Strampe in the lead.
Way to the left on the approach, as he's been shooting each week, Jack.
He has stayed right with his line. He comes down the stretch in good fashion. I guess it's a matter of finding his speed, which he seems to have done now.
It looks like he has a tendency to, he actually has to build it up, Jack, and I think that's the only way he can hit this 21, the lane he's on right now.
This is where he left that 8-pin a moment ago. He's giving Hoffman all the chances in the world. Oh, can't you almost imagine Hoffman mumbling that 7-pin? How could I miss a 7-pin? A 9 count for Strampe in the 5th frame. But
Jack, in the first game, also on that lane, Strampe hit in the bugle and got the 4-6. So the lane that we've been saying he owns is the one that's given him a lot of trouble.
Here's a try for a double. And the 5-pin.
Brunswick scorekins are laying all over the pin deck, and 5-pin stands there.
That ball just didn't drive through for him, and he couldn't get the necessary
Jack, when
action.
the pros get a 5-pin, this is actually a free pitch for a strike, because he'll shoot directly over the arrow he uses on his strike ball.
There's his spare, so Strampe opened in the 5th has a total of 76. 68 through the 4th with a spare up for Ted Hoffman. Hoffman is 18 pins behind. Ham was way out with that one, didn't get to the head pin. the 1, 2, 4, 8.
Jack, he'll have to go to the left of this head pin because that 8 pin sits directly behind the 2. It's almost like a Brooklyn hit if you would have all the pins up there.
Of course, you can get it that way, but you don't always get it. I don't think that's the way he was shooting it either. Well, Strampe has had 2 splits in this third game.
Funny, I imagine people viewing, Jack, the same way figure things out like our audience here. They started to ooh as soon as Teddy let that ball go.
10 pin remains. Bob Strampe is 22 pins ahead now. That 10 pin can get to be a mental hazard after a while. They each have a spare in the 6th frame. Hoffman has picked up 8 pins in this game. Not enough. He was 30 behind when we started. Trails by 22. He's had chances because he's had a couple of strikes working, but he hasn't been able to double. And the 2-5. Unless it's my imagination, I seem to detect all sorts of speeds out here.
That's what he's reached now. He's going back and forth, Jack, on his speed.
Throwing hard, slowing down. At the end of the second game, he confessed to me that he was having difficulty hanging on to the ball. Gets a spare. This would be an ideal spot for Hoffman to get that big X. Have one to work on. The difference is 20 pins now. A little bit high. Where in the world did the ball go? That's what they usually say when you leave the 4, 7, 9, 10. Where did the ball go?
Jack, he's got a breaking enough ball. He'll shoot for the 4-7, and he's standing way over to the left, and he'll slide that 4 pin over. His ball
He's got to shoot
sharper.
for it. Covered it too fully and opens in the 7th. 108 through the 7th for him.
Somebody's going to have to go to work here, Jack. I mean, either for protection or Teddy's got to go all the way.
Leaves a 4-7. It's shaping up as another Bob Strampe victory. All he'd have to do is keep marking now. A spare in the 8th for Hoffman. Strampe has a spare working. And he strikes. It's only his 2nd strike in this game. He got hot in the 2nd game, and he strung 7 of them together. Those were the only strikes he had. But he put all 7 together for a 2:43 game, and that is what made the difference.
Jack, Bob is a spot bowler, and he looks out at those arrows or the rangefinders. That's what he's got his eye on now.
Just inside the 3rd one, and he doubles. And that clinches it for him.
That's what it seems like when you get into a clutch like he did there and having confidence on 21, well, that's what happens. He got his strike right there, and that's the one that was very important.
6-10. Ted has had only 2 strikes. He had 5 in each of the first games. He'll be kicking himself when this one is over because he had a good chance. He had a very good chance in this 3rd game. There's his spare. Ted started with 191 and then 192. Found himself 30 pins behind, but then Strampe open in the 1st and the 5th with big splits, but Hoffman missed in the 3rd. Remember that 7 pin he missed? The split in the 7th. He finishes with a 10 count. Gets the strike in the 10th. 146 through the 9th, 176 if he gets 2 more. So he didn't need a very high game in this last one, unless Strampe strikes out in the 10th. There's his third strike of the game, and he finishes with... second strike, excuse me.
Said, let's bowl this game over with. I think, Jack, a little bit, he's a very young fella, and I bet you if you do talk to him, you'll find that he hasn't had a lot of exposure on something like this.
Sure didn't bother him at the outset, though. He got 3 in a row in the first game at the start, and then a double to start the second game. And he struck out. So he ended up with 5 strikes in each game. He finishes with 176 and 559. Bob Strampe has a double going. He's in the 10th frame. He's there again. He could go to 204 and 617. He defeated Al Savage, Tom Hennessy. Now he has Ted Hoffman in his pocket. That doesn't matter much because he still had no chance at the high series of 686 held by Billy G. There's the finish for Strampe. 193, 606, and his third consecutive victory. 606 to 559, Bob Strampe wins for the third time on Top Star Bowling. With us here at the Marlboro Lanes and having witnessed the Strampe-Hoffman match is one of the great names in bowling history in the nation, a fellow who is going to be appearing on this show in weeks ahead, Buddy Bomar, who's alongside. Bud, you're a little bit early.
Yes, I am. I thought I'd come in and, I don't know, see if I couldn't get a little line on the lanes, Jack.
Doing a little espionage work here, huh?
That's right. Doing a little scouting before I start. Maybe it'll help.
Now that you're here and before we chat with our bowlers at the conclusion of the show and hand out the prize money, how about utilizing the time here by giving some tips to the viewing audience, which would be nothing new for you having done that work for many years for Brunswick.
I'd be tickled to death, too, Jack.
All right, you need a ball?
Well, no, I think I can do it without a ball.
Go ahead. I'll just stand by and listen along with the other people.
All right,
Excuse me, I'll walk in front of you.
All right, you go right ahead. All right, I think it'd be fun. I'm sure that you people there at home have been watching this week after week, watching all of the players bowl, and the game at times can look very simple. And I think so many times the game has been oversold that it is a simple game, but if you go about it right, and if you follow all of your basic fundamentals of the game, I'm sure within a short time that you too could actually bowl as fine as these stars that you've seen here. I think so many times people get out and they take a bad stance before they ever start. They're all in a cramped position. You'll see some players that'll get down and they'll squat and aim with the ball. Others will go through all kinds of contortions. Actually, what is the most comfortable stance? We stand in an upright position with our feet side by side and the weight equally distributed on both feet. Arms at the side, leave the arms there and raise the hands. We hold the ball somewhere between the waist and the shoulders. Be as comfortable, be as compact as you can. All right, from this point on, we move into our footwork. And I'm sure that you see all of the stars bowling. There's all types of footwork. There's 3, 4, and 5-step deliveries. Well, we definitely recommend 4 or 5. But actually, these players who are taking 5, as a rule, they take just a short step. They'll take a little slide, or they'll take a little short, well, I'd say first step. But actually, they bowl on the last 4 steps. So let's talk about a 4-step delivery, an arm swing. Let's put it all together. Let's break it down into only 3 parts. First of all, what do we do from the waist down when we bowl? We merely walk very briskly up to the foul line, starting off on the first step, which will be shorter than the next 3. Each step gets progressively longer as we accelerate speed going to the line. All right, so here we go to the foul line. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, when we reach this point, we have to slide. A lot of players have an awfully lot of trouble sliding. Sliding is very simple. What creates the slide is as you come into the line after the last step, your left knee is broken and pushed beyond the toe. A lot of people do this, but they leave their hips back and high, so the weight is all on the heel again. After this knee is broken and pushed forward, carry your shoulders forward beyond the knee. At this point, my hips come up and go forward. Now I'm in position for the slide, and I can swing the ball onto the lane. Now from the waist down, forget the arm swing, just 1, 2, 3, 4, and slide. It should look something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's the slide. As you see, sliding is very easy. Now let's take the arm swing. Let's tie it in with the footwork. What does the arm do? The arm only carries the ball forward, lets the ball down, and swings it. It goes forward with the aid of the left hand. The left hand moves away, and the arm swings. Most people overwork the arm. Actually, as you see my arm swinging here, this is all the speed that we need. When do we start the arm? We start the ball and the right foot forward at the same time. After the push away, there's no hesitation. It's all in one piece. We keep it swinging. So let's take it easy, starting the ball and the right foot off at the same time. Let's forget the left hand temporarily. Here we go to the line. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that we can bring it all out at the same time so that the ball and the left foot and the body all reach the foul line together. All right, what do we do with the upper part of the body? The upper part of the body controls the backswing. If we stand up perfectly straight, we take our arm back all the way, it'll stop right about there at the hip because it'll always lock up here at these shoulder muscles. So your backswing from this point on is acquired by the shoulder drop. The arm goes back. Now we start the ball, the right foot and the shoulders at the same time. And from this point on, after the first step, after the left hand moves away, the overall weight of the ball should pull my shoulders into position for my third step and my backswing so that I come out on the end even. Now putting it all together. Ball, right foot and shoulders, 1, 2, 3, 4, and slide, carrying the shoulders forward. You should reach the line looking something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, actually, that's all that there is to your basic fundamentals. We have to learn how we should more or less move around on the lanes, how we should play the various angles, and that sort of thing. If you go to your local bowling proprietors all over the nation, we have a wonderful Learn to Bowl program. And it's a very fine visual aid. We have people, we have certified instructors who can help you with the game. And I'm sure that you, too, if you practice real hard, even like Jack Buck, will be appearing on Top Star Bowling one of these days.
Buddy, you're great.
Thank you.
Buddy Bomar. Now let's bring up our two bowlers whom you have enjoyed this week on Top Star Bowling, Ted Hoffman Jr. and Bob Strampe. And, gentlemen, each week we have a pretty young lady who comes along with the checks, the loser's share and the winner's share. Gloria, I'm sorry, and I mean really sorry, I don't know your last name.
Zirkelbach?
Well, I'll remember it for a while anyhow. Gloria, you have these checks for the loser, 500?
Yes, I do, Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you.
And Mr. Strampe.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Gloria. Somehow the people think that looks better than me giving out the money. I don't know what makes them think that, but I'll go along with them. Dick Hoover next week here.
Fine.
Marlboro. You going to
Be
stay?
looking forward
You going
to
to stay here in town or go back to Detroit?
I think we'll probably go back for a while.
Okay, then we'll see you here next week.
All right, very fine, Jack.
Gentlemen, thank you. Well, we had a little added starter today in the person of Buddy Bomar. Buddy will be along in how many weeks? We've got Dick Hoover lined up and Bill Pace, and then I think Buddy Bomar. In about 3 weeks, he'll be here at the Marlboro Lanes. And in the past, we've enjoyed ladies' matches here. We've had a lot of action. And a reminder that Billy Golombieski still has that high series in the high game, 686 and 258, standing up for him, where a possible $2,500 in additional money will be collected. It seems that as we go along with the weeks, it just turns out that the cycles have been in winners of 3 or 4. Oftentimes, a fellow will win 1, and that'll be it. But once they get started, they seem to win 3. And about that time, one of their buddies, one of these other professional bowlers, has the stuff to knock them off. And so next week appears to be a rather precarious situation for Bob Strampe. Bob is from Detroit. His opponent next week is from Akron. We're talking about Dick Hoover, and you, I'm certain, will enjoy it. Hope that you'll tune in. Speaking for Whitey Harris, Jack Buck says thanks for your time this time. Till next time, so long from the Marlboro Lanes. Top Star Bowling has been presented by Bowling Equipment by Brunswick, the #1 name in bowling. Top Star Bowling is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress.